So it's very interesting because you happen to know Emily very,
Yes.
very well. So first, I would like to know what was their relation to art and to artists.
Okay. Well, first of all, I knew Emily for probably 30 years or more. She was a trustee at the Whitney Museum for many, many years, and a beloved trustee who was a real personality with great style, a wonderful dresser, somebody who was not a person actually of a lot of words, but when she said things, she said it with real focus and sometimes rather sharply. She had strong opinions, always polite, but had strong opinions. And she was very instinctive in her collecting. She did not have a lot of words. She was not like when you would talk to her about art, it was not about discussing art history and everything. It was really about, she always used to say, I can go into a room with an artist and see 5 pictures by that artist, and immediately I will know exactly which is the great one, which is the best one. She was an instinctive connoisseur. She went by her gut. She's not somebody who would sit there and discuss each one and the merits of each one. She worked very, very instinctively, and she was really a person which is a little bit being forgotten right now in the context of the auction. Most people think of her as this great collector of modern art. I mean, people like Picasso and Mondrian and Leger. But that was sort of her first collection. The collection the Whitney was obviously involved in was not that, because we collect only American art. It was American artists from the 1960s to the present. And she worked very closely with a wonderful curator named Bill Katz. I don't know if you ever met Bill Katz, but he's an extraordinary independent curator and designer. Somebody I greatly admire, and you should speak to him. He knows her really well, and I can actually connect you. You can cut that out. But what I was admired her is that she was collecting the work of people like Ed Ruscha at great depth, and Jasper Johns and Richard Archwager. But she also moved on to a younger generation. You have to remember, she died at 102. So even as somebody in her late 70s and even in her 80s, she was collecting, the works of Forrest Bess, of James Brown, of Nayland Blake, of Carol Dunham, of Nan Golden, of Robert Gober, of Peter Hujar, and Neil Jenny, and Alfredo Jar,
Glenn Ligon,
of which she gave us many, and John Kessler and Barbara Kruger. I mean, she was very much, and it was with Bill's help, but she was very interested in the art of our time. She loved being with the younger artists. She loved having her openings at the Fisher Landau Center. So I remember her even more so as the person who loved American art and artists, but also loved the younger generation of artists. And she had a great collection of Felix Gonzalez Torres, many of which came into our collection.
How did you split? How did it between the donation and what she kept? How did it work?
She had, I don't remember the total number of works. We received over 400 works of art, and I have to thank, Leonard Lauder, who was our longtime chairman, was very close to Emily, and Leonard went to Emily and said, you've been involved with the Whitney, and you, for such a long time, you love the Whitney. You've been a huge supporter of the Whitney Biennial. You helped endow a gallery at the museum. You need to have some portion of your collection at the museum, and you need to work with Adam Weinberg and Donna DeSalvo to make a selection. And he convinced her to do it. I mean,
what was the choice? How did it work?
The choice. Okay, what we did is we submitted lists to Emily and to her representatives, and we went back and forth, and we would say, for us, it was a combination of the senior American artists, because thanks to Emily, we have probably among the only complete sets of all of Jasper John's prints. I mean, and it's not all from her, but a lot of it was from her. So, there were things that we wanted to complete, which she understood, and that made total sense. Other things were about, we had maybe a few works, say somebody like Felix Gonzalez Torres. We had a few works by Felix, but she gave us a whole number of the puzzle pieces. She gave us a combination, she gave us works by Carol Dunham, by I think it was Eric Fischel and Neil Jenny. I mean, what we did is we tried to pick works that are complementary to our collection, works that added something new. It wasn't just about putting more in the collection. We were being very precise in trying to complement what we had. And there were certain artists she really wanted to have in the collection who we didn't have in the collection or had very minor things, and she gave us a number of works. And so it was really a back and forth process, which she understood was about curating the gift.
And you remember her house and the Picasso?
I remember her house very well. And
so how was it?
It was very fashionable, well located on Park Avenue. And going there was always an occasion. She looks like she had dressed to fit into the setting. It looked like each time you went up to her place, she would be sitting on the couch, and she looked like she had arranged herself for a photograph of herself, surrounded by her beautiful furnishings and her clothing and her jewelry. So, she was a real grande dame. I mean, she was of another era in a way. But she liked a good party. She loved music. She loved dancing. She was a very stylish. She was of a certain generation of combination of and she wasn't born to it, but as a society person who loved being with interesting people, loved to host parties.
Yeah, but it's interesting to be able to look at Glenn Ligon and to be
exactly. It was not in type. I mean, here she was looking at artists of color. She was, looking at artists of different gender. I mean, and really, and she was very open-minded. She was not, the interesting thing is she's very judgmental about what she picked in art. She was not judgmental about, there are people she liked or didn't like, but she was very open-minded in terms of people. And
so the Picasso, where was it?
What's that?
The Picasso, the 32 Picasso, where was it?
I think it was in the living room, if I remember correctly, but it's, she moved out of that apartment quite a long time ago.
Okay.
So I don't remember the exact location. It was clearly, it was one of the great masterpieces of her collection. But, to me, especially as a young curator, you come in and you would see Picasso, you'd see Mondrian. She had a great Twombly, which she gave us. We had very little Twombly work. She gave us one of the great Twombly's, which was very important for us, even though we'd shown. I'm sorry.
And is there things in the auctions that you would like to have?
There are always, a few things here and there. There was a Rauschenberg that I would have liked. There are a few things that I would have, but I have to say she was incredibly generous. There were a couple of things that we would have liked to have, that could have complemented the collection. But by and large, she was extremely generous to us, and she gave us a lot of options and a lot of choices. So no regrets.
Bon, merci, Adam.
De rien. My pleasure.